Good evening and many thanks for joining us. You're watching QTV News, coming to you live from our studios on Caraba Avenue, and I am Answane Sonyasi. Here are the main news headlines. Gambians have joined Muslims around the world to commemorate Ashura, the 10th day of the first month of the Islamic calendar. Sheikh Ibrahim Jaju, the Amirul Hajj of the Gambia, has given an overview of the 2023 Hajj, including that of the two Gambians who died in Mecca while performing this year's Hajj. And following commencement of the data collection exercise for the Gambia Social Registry, the Gambia National Social Protection Secretariat engaged religious leaders and communities on the exercise. In international news, African journalists on a reporting tour in the United States of America on Thursday took a tour of the National Civil Rights Museum, where renowned civil rights advocate Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968. And in sports news, 2 Infantry Battalion FC clinched the North Bank Region 2023 3rd Division final after defeating Mayamba Academy FC on penalties following a 1-all draw. Stay tuned for more on these and other stories. Now, Gambians have joined Muslims around the world to commemorate Ashura, the 10th day of the first month of the Islamic calendar. Muslims observe the day with prayers and fasting in commemoration of highly significant historical events in the history of Islam. QTV's Mohamed Lamin Choi reports.
Muslims commemorate Ashura annually by reflecting on the history of Islam and the worship of Allah. At the Taqwa Mosque in Kanifing, Imam Usman Jah has been narrating the significance of commemorating Ashura in the Islamic faith.
And this day, we took its significance from the Prophet of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Although we inherited it from the Prophet of Musa alayhi salam, or the followers of the Prophet of Musa alayhi salam, but the Prophet emphasized the importance of this day, and he was keeping fast, or he kept fast on this day, and he urged his companions to keep fast, and he intended if he lived up to next year, he will also fast a day before.
Ashura is a time to show gratitude to Allah, and Muslims are encouraged to engage in religious activities, including fasting on the 9th day before this special occasion. In the Gambia, it is also a common practice for Muslims to congregate at home or at mosques to say prayers and reflect on the importance of Ashura.
ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير.
We inherited from our forefathers, our fathers and grandfathers. On this day, they used to gather in one place and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for security, for peace, for everything, and that's what we organize today with Muslims in this mosque.
This day also evokes the memory of the tragic killing of Hussein, the Prophet Muhammad's grandson, and his family in Iraq in a battle at Karbala.
Iraqians wrote letter to Hussein to come and govern them. Then Hussein went there to Iraq with his children and the children of the grandsons of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many of them, they went to rescue Muslims in Iraq. And when they reached the water of Karbala, then they surrounded them there and stopped them from drinking water for 3 days, and they killed 72 of them, and Hussein was among those who were killed. And that day also was coincided with the day of Al-Jum'ah, that is Friday. It was on Friday, and today also is on Friday. So definitely we feel that sadness.
10th day of this month and beyond, Muslims are commemorating Ashura with deep reflection and worship to earn Allah's mercy and blessings. Mohamed Lamin Choi, QTV News.
Now, Sheikh Ibrahim Jaju, the Amirul Hajj of the Gambia, has given an overview of the 2023 Hajj in Saudi Arabia and, amongst other matters, commented on the 2 Gambians who died while performing Hajj this year. Julian Jai tells us more.
The Hajj is a pillar of Islam required of all Muslims who can afford it once in a lifetime, as well as being a spiritual journey which Muslims believe offers a chance to wipe clean past sins and start anew before Allah. It is also a physically demanding journey. The Amirul Hajj commented on the award given to the Gambia by the authorities in Saudi. Amirul Jaju says that they consider many things before a country is given such an award.
Kabiring data ngamol ta airport oto. Nke koros nyamema molle mi alonko ibe batarine.
When we picked the pilgrims at the airport, we observed that some of them were not feeling well or were frail. So from Medina, we went ahead of the pilgrims before they arrived in Mecca. We were able to acquire 20 wheelchairs to help those who were sick and old with restricted movement. The Saudi authorities observed all this and took note of it. They also observed whether countries are respecting the regulations in Saudi before they award that country.
Sheikh Ibrahim Jaju said that although this year's Hajj was a success, it was not without challenges, especially with the food.
Ama bata damin beje follow momi alon kanene mantama ni o sambata madlato itelebelore.
The first challenge that we are confronted with is we are dealing with the first-time travelers who are guided in everything they do. Secondly, it is very difficult to satisfy someone who is new to the food of other people. Most of our pilgrims were not used to the food in Saudi. There were complaints about the type of food that they were served. We wanted to take along 2 Gambian cooks, but we decided to use the cook in Saudi. I admit we made a mistake because we did not discuss with them prior to their approval. So upon arrival, they said we cannot start in Medina but Mecca. So only Saudi food was served throughout the stay in Medina.
Some Muslims who are ill still make the journey because they don't know whether they will get another chance to do so. The Amirul Hajj and chairman of the National Hajj Commission addressed this matter. He says at least 2,300 Gambians took part in this year's Hajj, and out of that number, of which some were ill and 2 died.
Anyone who is destined to die in a place will surely die there. But we are also appealing to the Ministry of Health to adopt stringent medical screening for intending pilgrims before issuing them with medical cards. Let them not issue medical cards to pilgrims who are sick and unfit for Hajj, because they can infect the rest of the pilgrims because they board the same bus and sleep in the same rooms. Some of the people who died there were ill prior to going.
The Amirul Hajj also thanked all the Hajj operators for their relentless efforts to ensure a successful Hajj despite all the challenges that they were confronted with. For QTV News, I am Julden Jai.
Now, following the commencement of the data collection exercise for the Gambia Social Registry, the Gambia National Social Protection Secretariat, supported by the Department of Information Services, engaged religious leaders and communities on the exercise. Janaba Sonko was with the delegation in Gunjur and Sina reports.
The National Social Protection Secretariat's Social Protection Registry is in its final phase of data collection in the West Coast region, Combos and the Canifing municipality respectively. The exercise is being conducted by the Gambia Bureau of Statistics. Social registries are important systems that support outreach, intake, registration and determination of potential eligibility for social protection programs by registering households and people. However, those involved in collecting the data to build the Gambia Social Registry are facing challenges such as people refusing to be registered. To counter this, the Secretariat is engaging religious leaders in their advocacy. What is the major cause of this challenge? Here is Momodu K. Diba, coordinator with the Social Protection Secretariat.
Have to be clear why they are giving their data. So we interpret it always as that we didn't give the right information to the people. That's why they were not convinced. And that is why, as you could see, we are intensifying the campaign, the public information campaign, to ensure people understand exactly the purpose of the data collection. What we are receiving from the field is just what I said. People are not sure why they are doing this, and therefore they are not willing. And of course, it's not compulsory. People have to consent that their data will be collected. So we always interpret every refusal to mean that we need more sensitization and more clarification.
We engaged the Imam Ratif of Gunjur, Modu Lamin Toure, who urges communities to embrace the data collection exercise for development.
Al-Mamolu aning kawandelalu dina alfalo itola doko dula mo dulalat.
The role of the imams and religious leaders is important because they get to interact with people directly. So involving them in this sensitization is vital. We will also advocate this during our programs, and we will also talk to imams to take this subject seriously.
Simon D. L. Mendy, a pastor, echoed the words of the Imam Ratif of Gunjur on the need for effective participation from the public.
My message to the community members is that this is something that has come to help us, the Gambians. It does not, people should not see it as political something. It is something that is beneficial to people, because as we all listen to the presentations, sometimes today it is good for me. I may not need a help, but I don't know what will come the following year or the following day. That may warrant me to seek for assistance.
On the issue of data protection and privacy of the data collected, Mamadou Kediba, Coordinator Social Protection Secretariat, clarifies.
We don't have a data protection law in the country, but there is a data protection policy 2019. Now, to bridge the gap of a lack of data policy law, the National Social Protection Secretariat and its stakeholders work with the Ministry of Justice to develop a data sharing protocol. And the data sharing protocol has all the elements of a traditional or a natural data protection law. So once we are ready to share the data with any program, we sign a memorandum of association, which by definition from the Ministry of Justice or advice from the Ministry of Justice is an enforceable contract. So they commit to protect the privacy of the data that we are giving to them.
Social protection systems through available data and tools are transformative as they help mitigate economic and fiscal shocks. The coronavirus pandemic exposed the Gambia's health sector's vulnerabilities, and the Russia-Ukraine war has exposed food insecurities. The National Social Protection Policy is accompanied by a social protection implementation plan as mitigating mechanisms. The World Bank says social protection systems should be well-designed and powerful as they enhance human capital and productivity, reduce inequalities, build resilience, and end the intergenerational cycle of poverty. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jennifer Sonko.
And from the report there by Jennifer Sonko, we'll take a commercial break. But when we return, we have some more local, international, and sports news stories.
The National Roads Authority, the implementing agency for the Barting-Harding Highway Widening Project, in collaboration with the Ministry of Works, the contractors, Areski, the consultant, South Consult, Gamtech GV, OIC Gambia, and partners, seek the support of the public in the implementation of the project as Phase 1 nears completion. Drivers are strongly advised to exercise caution, adhere to speed limits, and respect traffic diversions. Pedestrians and vendors are urged to maintain a safe distance from the road. The authority reminds the public that the right-of-way remains at 40 meters from the road, center line on both sides. Property owners are therefore urged to respect reserved allocation and refrain from encroachment. The understanding and cooperation of the public are highly solicited. This announcement is brought to you by the National Roads Authority.
Home choice. Home choice. Bagage bu baax mooy def liggéey bu baax te wóor te soo ko jëndee dina la yóbbu ci diir bu yàgg te du gaaw a yàqu. Inco Home Choice ñoo leen indil bépp xeetu bagage yi judduwaay yi ngeen mun a jëfandikoo ci seeni métier yi.
waaw ñun Inco fii leen di jëndee suñu bagage yi Inco dañ yombalee bagage bagage yi dañ ëpp baax qualité bagage lañ lay jaay moo tax ñun liggéey bu ñoo def electrical plumbing boo ko jiwi Inco fii leen lay ñëw Brikama ñu jënd suñu bagage ñu bàyyee ko ba ci stand Serekunda fii waaye fii leen lay ñëwee bagage dina bagage lu waral loolu Inco dañ yombalee bagage number one number two seen bagage yi dañ ëpp baax dañ ëpp qualité
bagage yu si mel ni power tools accessories bench tools generator yu baax welding machines ak small construction equipments muy bagage yu baax yi ngeen mën a jëfandikoo bu ngeen ay samp ay kër
parce que Inco mo fene la bagage so quality sa garantie bi la bagage so bagage nya sa nimi sa tije ni ta famo min na Inco ma so to janga man Gambia janga ma so to folo den nga ñoo ma koy akole la nya wonyandi be nga wuli nga na Inco nga bagage so sa
seet si leen ñu si suñ maakaan yi nekk ci biir réew mi foofa sa Jimpex Kanifing Sukuta Jabang traffic light ak Brikama opposite Joko night club wala ngeen call ñu ci 532 5773 wala 341 7619 wala 739 8863 wala 303 9300 wala nga email ñu incogambia@gmail.com ak Inco Home Choice jafe-jafe ci wàllu bagage yi ngeen di jëfandikoo ci seen métier yi jeex na. Inco Home Choice. Inco Home Choice. Inco Home Choice.
No more leakage, cracks, or a broken roof. Batimat's got you covered. With its wide range of waterproofing products, from roofing systems, fling cut, and sealants, from the most trusted and reliable international brands, all to make your life easier. Batimat, your trusted partner.
Batimat, welcome home.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. And if you're just joining us, this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios on Carver Avenue. Now, fishing has significantly contributed to the growth of Gambia's economy and is a source of income for communities living along the riverbanks and coastlines. In recent years, fish scarcity and price hikes have affected several communities. Our regional correspondent Bakari Balde visited the Kiang Tendaba Fishing Center in the Lower River region to find out how the fishing sector is faring. Here is the report.
Tendaba is located on the south side of a bend on the River Gambia. On the riverside in Kiang Central District, about 150 kilometers from Banjul. It is one of the fishing centers in the region with an ecotourism camp that opens all year round. In this community, many of the inhabitants are employed in the fishing sector. However, the once vibrant and lucrative trade is losing steam due to several factors. Sekou Toure, a fisherman from Tendaba village, said the catch is always poor due to rigorous fishing activities in the coastal areas.
Fishermen do overfishing. We also catch small and baby fish and also fish that came from the ocean to lay their eggs here. In other countries, they seal off part of the river where certain fish stock come to lay eggs. In the Gambia, fishermen can fish anywhere.
Nyema Satukoli and Umijame both work in the fisheries business. They complain about the lack of a proper market to sell their fish and call on the authorities to renovate their village market.
I buy fish from fishermen who use canoes and I sell them in Quinala. This is because our market is in a very bad state. This market is our biggest challenge and we need help to rebuild it. In the previous years, fishermen will come to our market to weigh fish and we buy from them. Now, we buy from them at the riverside because we don't have a proper market.
This is what Ajajoma Diba, a retail fish smoker, had to say.
This place was once a fish business center and there were a lot of fishermen. Both men and women were involved in fish business, including fish smokers and fish sellers.
Fish is an important part of our diet, supplying about 40% of the total animal protein consumed in the Gambia. Lamin Keita is the Secretary General of Tendaba Fishing Center.
I am pleading with the government to also focus on places like Tendaba, Jinoi, and Jasobo.
The majority of people we engaged here spoke about the need for government to revitalize the provincial fishing centers and give adequate support to enhance food security for sustainable growth. Bakari Balde, QTV News.
And now on to international news in a moment. African journalists on a reporting tour in the United States of America on Thursday took a tour of the National Civil Rights Museum, formerly called the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, where renowned civil rights advocate Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968. QTV's Alif Sise is participating on the tour, and he now reports from Memphis, Tennessee in the USA.
We're here at the Civil Rights Museum here in Memphis, Tennessee, United States of America. Right behind me is the balcony on which Martin Luther King was standing before he was shot in 1968. Here is room 306, where he was actually assassinated. And since then, this place has been turned into a museum where hundreds or if not thousands visit annually to pay homage and respect to a man who stood for right to justice. Entering this National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, formerly called the Lorraine Motel, one has to be emotionally strong to observe the true story of a people, their hopes and dreams of challenge and change. The aftermath of slavery and inequality between blacks and whites has still left divisions between whites and African Americans, even though it is known as United States of America, as these two sculptures at the museum lobby depicts. The story of most African Americans begins in West Africa, where their ancestors were transported in chains to the West to work in planting farms under inhuman conditions. According to scholars, slavery in America lasted nearly 250 years and held at least 12 generations of black people captive. But as long as slavery existed, so did resistance. In fighting back, people of African descent compelled America to be truer to what it professed on paper, that all men are created equal. At the time, blacks were not allowed to vote, nor occupy an identified place in American society, not even on buses or restaurants. They lived under terrible racial oppression and discrimination. Nonetheless, the United States of America is today contributing millions of dollars in the development of Africa through various projects. The struggle for liberation, justice, and equality for all, so many, including renowned civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr., the father of the civil rights movement, risking it all for this cause. He was fearless, outspoken, but most importantly, genuine in his advocacy. Following a standoff between sanitation workers and the then mayor of Memphis, Mayor Loeb, who failed to respond to the workers' demands for better wages and improved working conditions, and in a bid to increase the pressure on him, Reverend James Lawson invited Martin Luther King Jr. to Memphis, knowing the national media would follow. On March 18, King arrived in town. Speaking at Massing Temple before several thousand people, he issued a stinging indictment of capitalism. He called for a radical redistribution of power and reordering of the nation's priorities. He also called for citywide work stoppage and mass protest and promised to return to lead the march himself. He declared that all labor has dignity. As we gathered from the museum tour guide, Dr. King was in a jovial mood when he stepped on the balcony outside room 306. Leaning over the railing, he asked musician Ben Branch to play his favorite hymn, Precious Lord, at that evening's mass meeting. A moment later, at exactly 6 p.m., he was shot, and at 7 p.m., he was pronounced dead at St. Joseph's Hospital on April 4, 1968. He was 39 years old. In Atlanta, Coretta Scott King made arrangements to come to Memphis to retrieve her husband's body. Memphis, once known as a bus-run town, in other words, a town controlled by racists, and had a long history of exploiting blacks for cheap labor. Although King is dead, his legacy lives on. As they say, you can kill the dreamer, but not the dream.
He is a role model and an inspiration to many rights advocates across the world, including the late Nelson Mandela in South Africa. Notwithstanding the consequences, Dr. King, as our tour guide referred to him, lived his life serving humanity and standing up for the oppressed. That remains his enduring legacy. Reporting for QTV News from Memphis in Tennessee in the United States, I am Aliou Cisse.
And the report there by Aliou Cisse will lead us to some exciting sports news in a moment. Now, 2 Infantry Battalion FC clinched the North Bank Region 2023 3rd Division final after defeating Miami Academy FC on penalty kicks, which followed a 1-1 draw during regulation time. Here is Don Williams.
After the usual pre-match ceremony, the teams were led onto the field by the match officials, followed by inspection by a troop of dignitaries. 2 infantry were in all green while their opponents wore blue and white jerseys. The kickoff was taken by the GFF president, Lamin Kababajo, amidst much drumming and dancing by both sets of supporters. Once the match kicked off, both sides pushed to gain the upper hand, but initially both defenses stood firm. In the 28th minute, 2 infantry's number 16 Ibrahima Jammeh unleashed a powerful 25-yard shot, which beat goalkeeper Malik Senghor for the first and only goal of the first half. The equalizer came in the 54th minute after 60% possession and decent and skillful football by the young blue and white boys. It followed a mistake by the khaki boys goalie, which presented Mayamba's number 14 Golgi Kuyate with an easy tap in. At full time, the score was 1-1. In the resulting penalty shootout, Mayamba FC missed 2 out of 4 kicks, while 2nd Infantry FC scored 4 of their kicks. Head coach Mayamba Academy FC, Mohamed Kamara, accepted the results, but they were dissatisfied with the officiating by the central referee.
I was really disappointed with the FC because penalty was a clear penalty was denied by the referee. So it's really disappointing.
The winners, 2 Infantry FC, went home with a giant gold trophy and a cash prize of $80,000, while the runners-up picked up a $60,000 cash prize. Kemo YCC, 3rd Vice President and Assistant Head of Competition, expressed his delight at a very successful league season and expressed satisfaction with the teams.
I am very appreciative of the performance of both teams, if you check, because Mayamba Football Academy being the youngest players we've seen, they were scored in the Fosa 1-0. They come from a goal behind, then struggled to level the score, and that took them to post-match penalty shootout. So that shows their competency in what they do.
The match referee was Modu Salge. 1st and 2nd assistants were Modu Mane and Alaji Ige respectively, while the 4th official was Alaji Sonko. Don Williams, QTV News, Farafeni.
And congratulations to 2 Infantry Battalion FC. And I'm afraid this is where we draw the curtains on this bulletin. On behalf of the entire production team, thanks for watching. Have a good night.